All right, members, this is Mike Power. Obviously, you know who I am by now, but I'm the candidate for EST for the New York City District Council of Carpenters. We're shooting a video right now with the former EST and a friend of mine, Mike Bilello. Just to go over some questions that some members have sent out to me about this election and some misinformation that was given from the other side, and some of the information that was put out there that members don't totally relate to or understand just now. But first, I'll let Mike introduce himself.
Yes, brothers and sisters, like you said, my name is Mike Bilello. I'm actually a 50-year member now. I've been retired since 2013. I was former EST of the District Council. I started in the organization back in 1975. I joined Local 257 as a first-year apprentice. I spent some time with the dock builders and went back into the building construction end of it, and then wound up in the district council. After that, I retired. So we're here. I'm endorsing Mike Power, Pete Corrigan, and Anthony Vincent on the Stop the Steal, Stop the Merge, Stop the Lies state. I believe it's an important issue for everyone, whether you're getting ready to retire, whether you are retired, or whether you're just starting out. The main issue is everywhere these pension fund mergers have occurred, the requirements to retire have changed, and not for the better. In places where it was 55, it's gone up to 65, or if you want to retire earlier than that, there's a 5% a year penalty. Retirees have lost medical coverage. Right now, you can retire in New York City at 55 and have medical for life as it stands now. I mean, that can always change, but everywhere this merger has happened, it's been eliminated altogether. So that means between 55 and either 62, well, actually 65 when you can go on Medicare, you're going to need to get your own coverage. So to me, that's the biggest issue during this election. And that is the reason you should vote for Mike Power and Pete Corrigan and Anthony Vincent.
All right, Mike, first of all, I want to thank you for all your help with this election. So I have some questions here. Actually, you probably hit on some of them already. But I'm just going to give you some stuff that was explained to me. Members was talking about this merger and what happened in other parts of the country, like Seattle, Pittsburgh, and recently Chicago. Beginning of last year, they stepped in after the merger, after they told everyone it would be all right. They came in, they raised retirement age to 65. And like Mike just said in his opening statement, that that they moved it to 30 credits with no more lifetime medical. And if you try to retire before 30 credits, you lose 5% for every year prior to it. So in other words, if you got to have 55, you probably lose about 30% of your pension would be shelved on it and stuff like that. But one of the other things that I considered about this, people don't really understand the two things about it. We have a member who was just injured several weeks ago on a job. I'm not going to name names of the company, but he fell off a ladder at the age of 62. He was working later to secure the medical coverage to get to his 20 credits, and he was up on an extension ladder. Incident occurred at the age of 62. He took a decent sized fall, fell on top of an A-frame full of sheetrock, broke his ribs and broke his back, broke vertebrae in his back, 3 vertebrae, I think, to be exact. You got to understand, Mike, that you can even attest now, being 68 years old now, and working your whole career and putting 50 years into this industry. That type of we're in a different type of atmosphere back in the day. Because when we used to run jobs when I was younger in a job site, you always saw these supers and foremen would always take the older guy and they'd put him on the easier tasks, and they took care of the men on the job in the union.
That is true.
So now you turn around, you get a situation like this where you have a 62-year-old man. I don't believe was the first mistake there. They put him up on a ladder. They had an apprentice there to work with him to hold the ladder. Then they took the apprentice away. He ended up falling off the ladder and getting injured. But that's a perfect example of why this attitude about the 62 and 65, the idea of the retiring at a younger age, also benefits the contract in the long run and the workers on a job, because as people get older, accidents do happen. Injuries happen as we get older. Just normally, as we get older, our bodies just start to slow down, our tendons get tighter. sprains and aches and pains, things just don't heal as quicker. You guys all learn as you're getting older. I'm turning 54. I'm learning it slowly by myself, but this is the perfect example of why this will hurt the good union contractor and the younger guys at a job, because more people are injured, and the more injuries that are reported through workers' comp, the workers' comp numbers go up, and these good contractors they won't be able to bid public works jobs. They say that 13% margin, they'll be banned from doing public works jobs like schools, hospitals, police stations, subways. They'll be locked out of that work. So it's this type of process that the international is trying to push on us with this merger. This does affect the younger generation. I think younger people need to understand that this is one of the main reasons why this merger is so important, why everyone has to get the vote out. What was the other thing we want to talk about? We have a lot of people talking about the journeyman rate and what they did to the apprentices. Just to get what was the hourly rate when you started in the business? You remember?
When I started as a first-year apprentice, it was $5.45 an hour.
Wow, long way. We came a long way, huh?
Yeah, we did.
Wow. So, and how many you fell under the old? How many credits did you worked most of your years where you had the $80 credit, right? Well, now $100 credit.
When I first started, I believe the credits were actually $45, and then went up to 60 or 62, and then eventually 80 after that. And then in the late 90s, then that's when that whole system changed. And then you started getting credit in 99. You got credit for all the hours you worked. Back prior to that, you only got credit up to 1,800 hours a year, regardless of how many hours you worked. If you worked 2,200, 2,400 a year, you didn't get credit beyond 1,800.
And I believe the new system we have now is much better. I think
it is better.
Yeah, it gives people more of an honesty.
That actually was implemented by the International when we were under trusteeship back in 1999. I could say that the one good thing over the years that I've seen them do.
Mike, you might remember, but a lot of members probably don't know out there that I was the one that wrote the emails to the board of trustees. You actually helped me back then when we got the increase, and we moved all retirees up to $100 of credit. I spoke with people like Billy Walsh. I spoke to a lot of John Diaz. Spoke to a lot of retirees, and we were talking about the funding in the pension fund, and I believe they were trying to say we were 98% funded back then, which they always give you on the lower end because they never want you to know the full number, because if they're too high, the government can step in and mandate them to do changes in the pension system. But by submitting that paperwork, it did put a few extra dollars in our retirees' pockets, so it moved everyone's basic credit from whether it was $80 or something like that up to $100 now. Right. So it did put people. So it's achievable if you do know the process, and that's the biggest problem in this industry. A lot of things people we're basically carpenters, like most people out there. They don't deal with the red tape it takes to get through something. People don't even understand what the board of trustees is. They don't understand what an EST is for some of these members. They don't understand what the hierarchy of what the union really is.
They don't understand what it is or even who it is.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I want to do when I get into office is probably do a couple more videos, things where people can watch videos and we can explain more about what the hierarchy of what the union, what a trustee is, what a trustee for the funds are, and give members more of an insight of what they're looking at and so they understand the importance of what a delegate does and what a delegate votes on, and how the whole system works all the way up to the general president and to international. So
yeah, that should actually be a course you take as a first-year apprentice.
I think they do something like that, but I don't know how intense they get into it. But I think especially our shop stewards should have that type of knowledge. I think I'll let you know some of our stewards.
Well, absolutely, the stewards should know that.
You know, the other thing I was talking about was, as you know, through the campaigning, you help get campaigns through signatures and talking to members and getting the word out with this election. Have you ever seen it as? I mean, it's blatantly everywhere. The loss of jurisdiction in the city, I would say, it's for everything from the scaffolding to
it's beyond
public
belief
works.
In my estimation.
Yeah.
For what I've seen in the last months that we've been going to job sites on basically a daily basis.
I mean, pretty much every job. I mean, I haven't passed too many jobs that were too bad. I mean, just in the scaffolding industry, and also with the public works stuff, with the gas lines and everything. Yeah, we worked on one job. We probably saw about at least 12 laborers with tool belts on and using skill saws and chainsaws. And when we found the timberman that was in charge of the job, he just shrugged it off like, well, that's the problem, blah, blah, blah. And we talked to one of the laborers that was there. He actually told us he was a timberman, but he shelved his book or stopped paying his dues and went as a laborer because he couldn't get enough work. Meanwhile, we caught him actually doing timberman's work, yeah, along with about at least 11 other people, at least. I mean, blatantly doing the work. So that's another thing that's got to be done. We got to, when I'm elected in this election, I feel like I will be elected. I think I'm in a good stance to win this election. That's one of the things I want to focus on as far as getting more organizers out there. And we got to be going after these 20. The city runs 24 hours a day. We're going to need people that are going to be willing to work night shift to go check on these jobs, because a lot of these, gas jobs or any tully jobs, these things will all be done at night, a lot of them, right, when the traffic is low. So we got to have people out in the street.
That's right. And another job that bothers me is the Brooklyn Marine Terminal. We were there a couple of times, and Paul Caperso, the EST, did a Instagram posting when he sat in a meeting and secured work. That's the offshore wind project. So that's where they're going to stage all the windmills to be put on barges and brought offshore for that whole project. And 1010 laborers are doing the concrete forms there. Now, I sent Paul pictures twice of 1010 laborers doing carpenter's work, concrete forms. And a third time, it was done by a company, Grisdell, they're out of Jersey. And they don't employ carpenters there, they employ laborers. They're like a road construction company. And the third time, there was a non-union company, a landscaping company from Jersey also, that was doing the forms for the lamppost and setting the anchoring boats, which is all carpenter work. And he did send 2 business agents there, and they did get the company removed from the job. But yet, the other work is still going on to this day. And it gets done at night, it gets done during the day. And stewards that have stood up for our jurisdiction there have been laid off from that job. That, to me, it's mind-boggling that is going on, and I don't understand why.
That's very similar to the stuff I caught at Nitro. I went through the same thing. They were doing, the 1010 were doing all the concrete in the boiler rooms. They were setting the piles, everything for the glass, the exterior light systems that were being put in around at Nitro. They were all being done with non-union work and labor, same thing. And I had to fight. Eventually I did. After the business agent refused to do his job, I had to reach out to the International and get Eddie McWilliams involved, and then they had a site meeting, and we ended up winning it all on a grievance. But it was like the struggle to get them to do the basic stuff. And then, when the BA turned around and gave the job away, which was Mandy Flukes, he gave the work to the company thinking it was no big deal when there was probably about 1,800 door bucks sitting behind them.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. It's 1,800 door bucks, and he just walked away. He just they had 1010 laborers and non-union carpenters doing the work.
Yeah, I mean,
we got it straightened out when I had Jerry Matthews came down and helped me. We actually got the guys that were, the one guy was a 1010 laborer. He used to be a carpenter. We got him re-signed up with the carpenters, and we got carpenters on. And those carpenters were there for at least, I'd take almost 2 years doing all the work there. It's a good hit.
Yeah.
We got all that.
No,
what about the 3 years before that?
Yeah, well, this is what's going on a day-by-day basis here. We're losing hours into our funds, and that hurts everyone. Whether it's carpenter hours we lose or millwright hours we lose, it hurts everyone.
And this is all low line.
We're all a family in the benefit funds. Dock builders, the millwrights, the carpenters, timbermen, the shop guys. It all goes into the same pension.
And this is all low-lying fruit. Bringing up something about nature, you were part of it, and I discussed this at the millwrights actually brought it up when I was at the millwrights meeting. I was working with Nitro as a regular carpenter, and I went over to Pink Houses one day to pick up material. And while I was in the parking lot, they were unloading a bunch of material. It was all the work for the trash compactors. And I went through all the process. I took pictures of everything, and I called you up, and you got me in touch with Mike Cavanaugh back then.
Yep.
And then through that, I reached out to Mike Cavanaugh, and Mike Cavanaugh said, that's definitely our work. And, we were able to get a business agent out there the next day who did an excellent job. She reached back out to me, and, it was the new garbage disposals were underground. So I guess it's a rat problem. They're trying to solve it. It's a new system they're coming in. But we got all that work and we signed that contract. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we signed 3 of those contractors altogether, and we put all those people in the union. And I spoke to the millwrights that were there, the business agents, everything. They said those guys were really good workers.
And they're
So
still working there to this day, right?
still working this day.
That was
Yeah.
years ago now.
Well, they're doing other trash compactors, but they're doing all that work. And the owner of that company, who hated me when I reported him to the union, he got mad at me. Like a month later, he saw me and shook my hand and everything, thanked me for because he said the guys that he got were awesome. And I guess he's doing better now. He's got good guys working for him. You know, so
I've heard that story a number of times, especially with millwright contractors.
Yeah.
I remember there was an out-of-town company that used to do drawbridge work, and we finally got millwrights on a one-job agreement, and they never looked back. That was going back to the 90s.
Just the effort of putting the work in. Like I said, one day I'm driving to work going to Brooklyn, and I kept driving past a park, and they were doing the astroturf there. And it was a state job, and he had city money in it. And I glanced at it. And I said, at lunchtime, I took a turn around. I went back over there, and I started talking. I made a call to John Sheehy back then. He was in the office, and we got some. I got a contact lady from the Parks Department and from the state, and we were able to get our floor covers over there because people don't realize the astroturf work belongs to us. And I think that's a big
2287 pioneered getting that work and policing jurisdiction and getting all the city parks and all of that. Started back, Jeff Pasanti did that, and Anthony Vincent's father, Claudio Vincent, was big with that. And the local has let it go. There was a time when they commanded, all of that work, and there's a lot of it, and it's not going away. And now it's being done non-union all over the place. I mean, I see it on Long Island. I see it everywhere.
Yeah, and that's something broke in the system with that. And it seems to be that some of the reps and the organizers there, they just feel like it isn't their job to police.
They don't have the passion to do the job. It's not a blanket statement about all of them, but there's a good number of them that are not there for the right reason. There's some good ones around, and we know who they are.
Yeah.
And we appreciate their efforts, but everyone has to be on board.
Well, I think if you police this, it's kind of like, in a way, like if you go after the smaller stuff and you keep it in line, it gets everybody understanding. Like, if people, it's like anything else in life. It's like where you park your car. If you get a parking ticket, you learn not to park your car in certain places. Same thing with these contractors. I think when they get away with this, they just become second nature, and they just allow them to do it. They think they get away with it on every job, and they just think, because the risk and reward is worth it for them. They don't, nothing happens.
Well,
so
that Brooklyn Marine Terminal is a prime example. The contractor, basically said to people, the carpenters don't bother me out here, so I use laborers. They don't seem to care, and that's the whole attitude. If somebody went there and told them our work, went to Skanska and got jurisdiction of it, it would be a done deal. But why they're not doing it baffles me.
Funny thing is, I actually called Paul because I'm actually friends with the vice president of Skanska. He never reached back out to me for any help. Asked if he needed a hand.
Yeah, I can't explain it.
Oh, I think I could help him at least. I guess it
You
wasn't.
can only try.
Now, listen, I'm not gonna. I asked him if he needed any help, but I never heard back from anyone. So I figured it was taken care of. Obviously, it wasn't. But that's that's the
No, to this day, it is the work is still being done by 1010.
This is these are problems out there.
It's a problem. Definitely, these are hours that should be going into our funds, employing our members.
I also spoke to members while I was campaigning, and they straight up told me, some of them, that they're B-rate carpenters, that they finished their hours 2 years ago, and they're still working on the B-rate because they're afraid if they go to A-rate that they'd be fired.
Yeah, that whole B-rate thing is it's really upsetting, to tell you the truth. I mean, these reduced rates was something that I was pressured to do when I was EST, and absolutely, totally against the two-tiered system. The union, the whole concept of the union is against that.
Well,
Should have never been implemented, but now we're stuck with it.
yeah, it's there now. I mean, it's part of the contract. There's something you can just do to back it up. You just got to work with what you got. I mean, my opinion is, listen, you do need a way to. You have to go after the work. We have to get back this work that we don't have, especially in the residential market. So you got to get a way to organize the members, the non-union workers that are out there, right? But you're also not going to take a 40-year-old man that you find on a non-union job and put him through the apprenticeship program.
But here's the question, right? So are the B-rate carpenters employed on jobs that were non-union that we organized, or are they working where the A-rate carpenters were working on jobs that were union, such as hospitals and airports? You know, what's going on with all that?
That's the problem. It's anything supposed to be public works jobs or prevailing rate jobs. It's not supposed to be any of them on there. Now, do I find things that don't look right and they don't add up, and how it's being policed? A lot of the members have complained to me that, some of these companies, everyone's a B rate on the job. It's not being even in the places where they're allowed to be there. It's supposed to be a ratio. No one's covering the ratio. So there is like a wage fraud there being broken. They're not following the contract.
Yeah, but there shouldn't even be a ratio on, prevailing wage.
No, the prevailing rate jobs are not supposed to be on, period.
And what's going to happen here? We're going to wind up losing the prevailing wage, between the non-union doing prevailing wage work or us lowering the rates on it. It's going to be something that is going to get adjusted as soon as someone gets wise to it.
I'm actually shocked that hasn't happened yet. I'm surprised someone hasn't gone after it. I mean, with the cost of living in New York City and what things have cost today to when I started in the business, I mean, I don't understand how an apprentice makes it now. If you're a young kid coming into the business, and so you might get the opportunity to get to the whole business, but if you're someone like in your mid 30s or early 30s coming in now, you're not even making full buck until you're like 7-8 years into the business. You're still doing your apprenticeship if you think about it, because you got to come up with 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
So you're not even getting that strong pension credit. And like we just said before, by the time you get into your 50s, you know what I'm saying? Some of these contractors don't want to say it, but there is a form of age discrimination. Some of these contractors don't want
there absolutely is.
Yeah. Especially now with the full mobility and everything with the contractors going out there. Some guys work, and I know a lot of guys that do very well in life if they have a connection with a company. But people are learning more and more now. You would think, like, with these bigger companies going out of business, or bosses cashing out and walking away.
When I was a business agent back in 98, 99, contractors used to argue with me all the time. They didn't want to keep someone I sent to the job off the list that was 50 or 55 or even looked old.
Yeah,
it was an argument back then.
So it's always been an argument with everybody. Yeah, you see it in the other trades too, because some of the other trades, like my buddy's a pipe insulator, I think they have to work to like 63 or 64. I don't think they have an early retirement at local.
Well, it's a small local.
Yeah.
Their pension fund probably doesn't.
I think they take a lot more in the check up front. I think, like the same with the brickies, they get more money in the front of the package.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that.
But
they definitely aren't as funded as we are.
And that bites them in the ass later down the road, because, as this is a physical taxing industry. So you got to always remember, anything can arise, even on a good day, like what just happened at JFK Airport with those iron workers with the steel that fell at the back of the truck. They went to work one day unloading a rig, and the thing toppled over on top of them. I know one Teamster was hurt, and I think several iron workers were hurt as well. And that was just
2 iron workers.
Yeah, guys just going to work to do their job, support their families, and accidents happen just like that. That's another thing with me. I have the Aflac, and I know the district council offers it to the employees of the district council, but members have to buy it themselves through I think they set it up with the local at one time, but we should set something up on the website so members could purchase it to the website on the district council. So I think it's a good thing to have. I had it, my gallbladder. I had to get an operation of my gallbladder, and it just covers you, like if you're injured or something like that. It's a supplement you can pay. It doesn't work out to be much. I think it costs me like $100 a month. But when you really think about it, that's you spend $100 going out to dinner. So I think, especially in this industry, since we work with our hands or legs, if you're injured, it's something, it's a secondary policy on top of the workers' comp. And God forbid if you're injured at home or injured on the weekend, it's covering a majority of your salary. So it doesn't put you behind the eight ball. Because the biggest problem in this business is if you do get into an injury, you could be out of work for a while, and that could really, the bills add up on members, especially when you got young kids at home.
It's kind of amazing that we have to talk about members buying supplemental health care when they're working and contributing, up to $15
I
an
know,
hour
$15
into the
onto
welfare fund.
I know, and then they have to do it. But it's just something I was thinking about.
And then with the prospects that this merger was to occur, to lose their retirement medical.
Oh, I don't think people totally grasp what that means. Even my friend's an attorney. He's a divorce attorney. He said to me, he goes, a lot of members, they probably went married and divorced. They're going to realize that in the divorce decree that they actually stated that they have to maintain medical for their kids. So if you're a member out there and you're planning on retiring now, and you want to get out at 55 or something like that, or 62, you're not going to have medical for your kids. So you're going to be under that court document till that kid's the age of whatever, 24, whatever they put in the document.
26.
I don't know what they do in the court documents. That's what Mark was telling me. One of my other friends told me, goes, it goes by whatever you do in your divorce. You're going to settle. You'll give the kid up until they're in college. Maybe they will offer that. So if you try to retire now and you try to get out at 55 and you don't have that medical coverage, you're expected to be paying $2 or $3 grand a month to keep the coverage on the kids. To most people, that'll be half their pension. So guys, they'll realize they can't retire now. So I talked to a guy about this, and he can barely walk as it is, and he's like, there's no way. His hip is bone on bone. There's no way he'll make it to anywhere past 55. He's barely making it as it is. So, and he's got, he went through a divorce a couple of years ago. So for him to pick up insurance for 3 of his kids, how would he do that? He wouldn't be able to. And if you're going to, what are you going to do? Leave the union or go do something else to get medical coverage?
Doesn't make sense.
No. So you're actually tying people's hands. So these are decisions made by leaders that aren't really totally at an understanding of what's going on. They've lost, either they've lost their way, or they never were in their way of working with their tools. Because I don't think anybody.
Yeah, I guess I can only speak for myself, but I never lost my way when I was there.
Like I used to always say to people, with these companies, these big companies like the Stars, back in the day, my grandfather, my dad's situation, when you dealt with those owners, they actually worked with the people who started those businesses. So by the time it gets to the third generation, remember, those guys aren't really swinging a hammer, wearing a tool belt.
I've seen that time and time again.
So the connection is, they'll never have the same connection. They just look at you as an employee, and they don't look at you as a fellow member. Or
smart owners put their kids to work as first-year apprentices and made them work their way up the ladder, and then maybe after 15 years they brought them into the office.
That's the best way to do it, because there's something about, like I always joke around, like if you unload a tractor trailer full of wet studs in the cold and the wet, you know what it's like when those studs are sliding all over the place. And like I say, there's a certain type of, you understand, what it's like unloading sheetrock on the back of a truck with an A-frame.
Whatever the job is, you have
an
understanding of what it takes to get it done.
Yeah, so versus a young kid, when they walk on the job, they start barking around. Like the incident I just said with the guy that got hurt, he's just a younger guy who became super for a company, and his method of pushing a job is screaming and yelling, and that sets up a disaster. Because when people are yelling at you and you're a supervisor, you're going to create two things. You're going to create a hostile environment where someone's either going to be working too hard and too fast, and they're going to end up jeopardizing their safety or someone else's safety, where someone's going to get hurt, or that person's going to be intimidated and they're not going to ask the right questions, and then mistakes are going to be made. That's what happens when people yell and scream. So I never believed in yelling and screaming.
It's not necessary.
And it doesn't. I
was a foreman. I was a super also. I didn't yell at the men. I talked to them like gentlemen. And I got my jobs done.
Yeah, because if you talk to someone decently, I think you're going to get more than the wrong one. You got to treat. Listen, everyone's going to work to feed their family and take care of themselves and to be part of an organization. There's no reason to
you want everyone to be part of it, whether it's a 2-month job or a 2-year job or the carpenters union itself.
And a good super or foreman finds their idea is to identify the person and get them on the best project they can get the most out of them. That's what I feel you should be doing. So when you get the right people, and
someone's strong points, someone's weak points.
Just like with my apprentices, I always believe in getting them on their tools and getting them with a good mechanic, because if that kid, if he doesn't get something out of the industry, he's just going to lose interest. We went to one job down by the council. We went down and we looked at it at night. And I just, if you remember, all those apprentices, I spoke to some on the phone, and they just like, they're very disheartened because all they do is go at night and stuff and insulation walls. That's all they do, just stuff thermofiber in the wall. So, after 3 or 4 weeks of that, that could be pretty. It's just, what am I doing?
It gets old. I mean, there's
Yeah.
it has to get done, and you got to know how to do it, and you have to do it. But there's so much more to this trade, so many other aspects that you need to master, in a short period of time. 4 years, or now you're saying 7 or whatever years. When I was an apprentice and when I retired, it was 4 years, 4-year apprenticeship, and it goes fast. And you need to use those 4 years to learn as many different things as you possibly can.
But when we started too, you didn't have separate specialty trades like the concrete, high-rise. Everybody did everything, which is better.
No, when I started, I worked for a GC, and we did everything from, concrete, not high-rise, but various.
My best jobs too were with GCs. I was working for GCs. You did everything on the job.
They did their own drywall. They did some of their own woodwork, and everything in between.
Well, all right. We'll just make this even shorter so we don't get too deep, get these guys going all night with this video. The main thing I wanted to point out to the members, a lot of people, some of the biggest questions about this merger was what was going to happen, and where we would end up down the road. The question here is, guys, the merger doesn't work, and the main reason you got to ask yourself is, why do it if you don't know what's going to happen? All I can tell you is give you examples of what happened in other places, and Mike can verify with every merger out there. They sold off the access, they sold off the buildings, the rights of things. If this merger does take place, and they merge us into these 2 other regional councils, which will only be phase 1. Eventually, they're going to merge us the whole East Coast. When they do that, these other trustees will have a say in all their decisions moving forward, including the building. The building is owned by the pension fund. So my gut tells me, as well as Mike would say, that more than likely they would sell that building.
I agree.
They have plans of moving everything from the 9th floor to the 3rd floor. They redid the lobbies. They redid everything there. They're talking about putting the school out in Queens, and they're signing an 18-year lease. I would ask you, why would you sign an 18-year lease and move it off the floor?
When I was EST, actually, and sat as the head trustee on the union side of the benefit funds, there was some pressure then to sell the building. This is not a new idea. So for anyone to say, they're not selling the building, and there's always pressure for that. It's an asset of the pension fund, and they diversify assets. And when a building gets to be worth, a certain amount of money, it's a consolidation of assets there. So fund advisors advise you to sell the building. As a carpenter, we need to keep visibility in New York City. We don't want to become invisible there. As it is, we're already becoming invisible with the amount of non-union work going on.
But that is a landmark. That's like everyone knows what 395 Hudson Street is.
It has our name on the front. It's kind of like with the International. When Doug McCarron took office, he had the building on right across from Capitol Hill. It's the closest building to the Capitol.
Yeah.
And it said United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America on the side.
Everyone had to drive by it.
We were very visible. And they knocked it down. They built a 10-story building there. And they get income rent, but, did that improve the lives of the everyday carpenters?
No.
What was better, to have our name, in stone at Capitol Hill? I think that was a better deal for the members, anyway.
Yeah, that's why Paul even mentioned in the debate. I think he said he would sell the building if the number was right or something like that.
He did say that under certain circumstances he would.
Yeah, I don't think it's a smart idea. And actually, a conversation I know a friend of mine had with Pascal McGinnis, he said, don't ever sell that building. That building's there for the bad times like now. That's the building that's generating rent, it's generating income. If anything, that building should be, we should be using the air rights and building on it and actually staying in
Yeah,
the building.
actually, when I sat as EST, my thoughts were to figure out a way for the district council, the union, to buy the building from the pension fund. So that whole discussion went away, and then the union could see the rental income or any benefits.
Oh, I see what you're
from that.
saying. Yeah.
I mean, there's options. There's options.
Yeah, people don't realize because the pension fund owns the building, there's a lot of requirements about it. That's why, like, even when the locals rent out an office space, because of the requirements on the government requirements, the pension fund, you have to rent everything. You can't just give anyone a deal. They have to rent
Market
the
rate.
market
Has to
rate
be
square
market
foot.
rate
So
by
people
law.
don't. Yeah, that's why some of the smaller locals aren't in the building. It's because financially it probably
Right.
wouldn't be
The
beneficiary.
pension fund can't give them a good deal.
Yeah,
It's against
but if the
law.
council owned it, it'd be a different story. But because it's through the pension fund, people don't realize it. And the school owns part of the building around the school area. So the school moving would be a good idea. But did we miss that? Did we miss that boat as far as moving the building? You know, you have to get the right landmass. I mean, you're not going to get. First of all, you move that school, it's not going to be in Manhattan. It's to get a piece of property or something you want.
At this stage of the game, that would be difficult, but I would advocate for leaving the school there and then building
A satellite
a
school.
satellite, facility that maybe the dock builders could take better advantage of.
And they have other classes that do have two places to give classes. That's all.
And that too, right?
Yeah.
There's
no
a lot
reason.
of options.
Yeah, we could have two facilities, and then whatever we got, we'd rent that out, make that. Listen, if everyone go back in time, we should have bought another building back when McGinnis bought this one, right? It was a great investment for the pension fund.
I think Pete touched on that when he did his speech back at the 157 meeting a couple of weeks ago.
Correct. We talked about.
Yeah, he did. He had a couple of ideas he threw out there then, and if you take a deep dive into it, you can figure a lot of things out.
Well, I think it's something to look at. I think selling the building should be very last thing on the menu, and especially if the international's involved, because if this merger did happen, all it would take is a vote from those other trustees to liquidate and to move assets into out of real estate, and that would be the end of it.
My opinion is if this merger happens, it's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah, and that's another thing people don't realize. This merger was actually we got put in this position because the consent decree used to protect the pension fund, right? And then they used attorney Barbara Jones, former U.S. attorney. They used her to remove the consent decree or the stipulation order.
Stipulation and order.
So
technically,
okay, the stipulation order that protected it and governed it. So now by moving that away from it, it's given them the access to actually move the funds. Had that not been done, this wouldn't be done. And the other way people don't realize when I say it's not a conventional merger is they're only taking the money. If they tried to merge the council, what's left of the stipulation order would go with it. So in other words, if they tried to merge,
consent decree,
the consent
still
decree,
intact, and as long as that is intact, that's our protection.
Yeah. So that consent decree, if McCarran just came to take us right now with the consent decree, that means they try to the North Atlantic and Eastern Regional Councils. They would all form our consent decree. It means one man, one vote for all of them. It would mean they would have a regulated out of work list like we have. The IGs would be monitoring things, but they don't want democracy. They just want the money, and that alone scares them.
McCarran actually attempted to do that back in 2011. It was right before I took office as the ST. I might have already been elected and not sworn in yet, or even prior to the election. I don't really recall that timeline, but he wanted to take the millwrights and the dock builders and the timbermen and merge them into the Jersey Council at the time, whatever it was called. That was a couple of different names ago. He consolidated councils out there a number of times, but whatever it was in 2011. And anyway, I took him to court. I took him in front of Judge Haight at the time, or it might have been the succeeding judge. And I argued that the consent decree would have to follow those locals, and the judge agreed, and
Let's put a stop to it.
the UBC backed off on doing those mergers.
Yeah, I still think it's weird that they can take the pension fund. That's just so weird that they actually have an opportunity right now to take our money.
Well, if they merge a pension fund, which is a separate entity from the district council, right? It's not it's not signatory to the consent decree. So if they do that merger, the consent decree is not following it.
I know
right?
that. That's,
So it's something that they can accomplish, right? Without all they need is the approval of the trustees.
well, then they would have to, and with that merger would come, something would have to change with the pension system. Obviously, they're not going to merge us into a council with almost 90,000 members and keep, raise them all up to we have. Then that'd be impossible, right? So they're not going to take our funds.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, so they would have to more than likely bring us down to them or something like that.
I would see. So anyone who has accrued benefits, they would maintain that. So anyone who's worked to the date of that merger to any new rules take effect would keep what they've already earned at the dollar value that they've already earned it. So going forward, that could change to whatever they change the rules to be.
So if you're a 50-year-old member right now, and then this merger happened, and next year they raise the retirement to 65, you're screwed.
Definitely.
You got to go to 65 now.
Right. If you're 50 and you're waiting to retire at 55, and when you're 51, right, because this merger could take a little bit of time, you've turned 51, and now you're saying, all right, I got 4 years to go, and they changed the rules that it's 55 is no longer.
And you got 19 more.
62 or it's 65. Yeah, they could do that.
Yeah. That would
be devastating for someone who's had their eye on the ball for 55.
And just like they did in Seattle, members should understand that if they did this merger, you could get a letter in the mail 6 months later telling you like your retirement medical's gone and whatever they gave. I think they gave like a couple months grace period. That was it. It was limited to medical.
Yeah, they sent the notice out. I think June of that year.
Until
last year,
January. I think December 31st.
So
yeah,
December 31st.
That would be it.
Basically, at midnight, you no longer have retiree medical coverage. You should seek it on the open market.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a copy of that letter that I just saw around here somewhere before.
Yeah, I put it on the internet. I'll put it up along with this post. I'll put it right with it so everyone has it. So I'll put that up there. And some of the other documents we're talking about. I posted them before on my Facebook page, but I'll post them again. So if anybody wants to look for them, they're actually on the top of the page. I pinned them, so they should be up there, along with the chart showing the 3 different regional councils, and it's showing how many members are in each council, 16,000. It was like 29,000 and 40-something thousand. The other one's roughly 87,000. I think they went up in numbers. I think we're closer to 90,000 members right now with everybody, because we claimed a little bit too with numbers. I think we're up a little bit higher right now than when those papers were made, because we're taking new members, new apprentices in every day. So, but yeah, that's a big problem for the members, and I know that's the part that scares a lot of people. And a lot of the BAs that are out there that they're telling them, oh, it's not going to be so bad, don't worry about it. But people have to understand, a lot of these people that are telling you this, they're council employees. They're just trying to hold on to what they have. I think if they were out with their tools on, they'd have a different attitude of what this.
They would definitely have a different attitude.
Yeah, they would.
We use the example of someone who's 50 years old, but this affects someone who's 18 years old. Of course, you're 18 now, but when you hit your 50s, you're going to be looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, and 65 is a lot different than 55.
Yeah, and for some people, you'll end up, like I said before in the beginning, you're going to end up, some people that do the heavy interest of work, or their body breaks down, like, your knees go, your hip goes, people kicking carpet all day with their knees and their hip. And then you got dock builders and guys who do heavy concrete, stuff like that. You're working in the cold all the time. You start to feel that as you get older. Listen, even doing the interior work and lifting heavy panels all day, doing woodworking, my shoulders are killing me now. I can't. I injured myself on the job. You know how hard it is to hold something over my head right now? I can't do it. So that's why I'm out. I can't even work right now. I was standing on a ladder. I got electrocuted. Went to work last minute of the day and got zapped. So accidents happen.
Yeah,
Robert,
you never know when something's going to hit you.
So, all right. With that being said, I think we're going to wrap this up. But all I can tell the members how important it is. Everybody, we got to go over these dates. I think it was.
Get the ballots in is the number one thing. And if your dues are not up to date, your vote doesn't count. So the dues, November 14th. You have to be in good standing by November 14th.
With that, they also have to check to make sure that all their assessments are up to date. With the local tell them that, as well as if they didn't do their picket duty, they got to make sure any penalties or fines or that were
Good
against them.
standing means your window dues, the dues you pay to your local union, are up to date. Your assessments to the district council are up to date, and your picket duty has been done. Or any fines you may have from previous years not doing it, all of that has to be taken care of. Otherwise, your vote won't count.
Members, this is very important. Remember, this is it can't get any more important than this election. If this goes through, all the rules we have on the table right now and what's going to happen with our next set of contracts, that'll all be negotiated in a different way. So we don't know, how jurisdictions will change down the road, what'll happen. They will eventually try to get rid of the stipulation in order completely, the consent decree. And when that happens, everything we have, even to how our certified shop through system works, all that would change eventually. The out of work list rules, everything would change on the road.
All of that could change if they eliminated the consent decree.
Yeah.
Right. The rank and file vote for your district council offices would go away. Everywhere else in the country, it's a delegate vote. We're the only place where it's one man, one vote by the rank and file.
And just like this election, when these delegates come out to your job, a lot of the council employees end up with these delegate positions. So when they go to vote, the international, they're voting sometimes to protect their own job. They have no choice. Like they're told what to do.
It's a system set up by design.
Yeah, you can't really speak out against it because nobody's elected by the members. You're appointed, and then
right. A lot of these members don't even know. Like when I started, business agents were elected, at the locals. So things have changed, and the power has been taken away from the members over the years and through these restructurings that McCarran is known for. Since he took office, his whole taking the power away from the members at the bottom and consolidated it at the top. So this is our way of holding that back.
I believe that's why a lot of these council reps and organizers are backing this, is because they're in a position where they were put in there probably for the wrong reasons, some of them, and they could be controlled by this. That they know that they have. If they don't,
the way the system has been set up.
If they go against the system, they're out of a job. They're going to lose their council car.
Absolutely.
They're going to have to put their tool belt back on and go back to work. So for that, they're willing to just try to convince everybody this isn't so bad. It's not as bad as Mike making it sound.
There's not a lot of people willing to buck that system.
Yeah.
I did twice actually.
Yeah, me too. If I would, and people don't realize if I didn't run in this election, there would be nobody running right now. This would be this.
I 100% believe that.
This would be a done deal. They'd be celebrating right now, and they'd be getting ready to put the for sale sign in front of that building downtown. So they'd be getting ready.
We're laughing, but it's really not fun.
They'd be having, they'd be having some really big steak dinners right now, trying to get ready to get rid of this sale.
But by the way, you're going to post something telling the members if they haven't received the ballot.
Correct. I'm going to put up
what to do.
I'll put that up with this post. I'll put the information for that. Who to contact to get a new ballot mailed to your house. There'll be a phone number to contact, or you could do it online. For what I understand, if you call up the number, we've actually tried it before. It works pretty easy. You can call them up. You give them your UBC number. They're going to ask you for your current address, and they're going to send it.
AAA is conducting this election, and so no one has to worry about the district council or anyone down there seeing how you voted. The ballots.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's good.
The ballots don't go to the district council. They go to the AAA. Their office is on Broadway. The ballots are collected there. The envelopes are opened by machine. The secret ballot envelope goes into a bin, and no one knows where it came from. It's 100% above board. No worry whatsoever. So don't let that deter you.
Yeah.
Don't wait to the last minute. They have to be received by November 19th, right? November 19th at 5 p.m. Don't wait to the 18th or the 17th. Send them in now.
The sooner the better. And then the count will actually be we'll count the ballots on November 21st at 2 p.m. They moved it up. It was supposed to be in the morning, but I just got an email recently. They moved it up.
Right. So that afternoon, late afternoon of the 21st, we'll know the results of this election.
And like I try to tell the members too, look, I have a lot of ideas about hiring new organizers and restructuring some of the way on how we go after this work and police it. But you know, we could go after this work and we could get some new organizers, I think, for the specialty unions. They're going to have to do something with the scaffolding industry to try to police this better. A lot of it's going up, you know, like I said, 24 hours a day, there's scaffolding jobs going on all the place, especially schools. A lot of work happens in the schools at night. We got to be on top of this work, like the windows and everything else being done, floors. We have to be monitoring this work. It happens in housing, all different city agencies. And we have a hold of this work and we need to start policing it. So, but, you know, I can't do any of that if this merger happens. So it'll be, that to me is what we're focusing on, but we do have a plan on how to go after this work as well. So we will get there. Just the key thing right now is we got to get this election done. This will be the hardest part, is getting past this.
We should probably appeal to our delegates for the rest of the ticket, the 3 trustees and the warden and conductor.
Correct. You know what? I'm going to post that along. I'll make a post with the documents for that, and I'll put the list of names. I think, do we get the numbers for each? How do we get in touch with those delegates? We got to get the numbers, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a task, trying to find out. You know, you take a local like 157, you're 40-some delegates, and try to get all their contact information. Because they do vote on council issues that affect the members.
Yeah, but the members should have access to get in touch with them.
When I was EST, that contact information was listed on the council website.
Well, when I'm elected,
that should happen again.
When I'm elected, that's something we'll get back up. There'll be a contact thing and an email for them to contact the delegates.
Right. So we gave them a special council email, so they didn't have to give out their private email, and you know, and there's no reason why that shouldn't be.
No, because you should be able to reach out to your delegates right now and voice what
they're making decisions on my behalf. I should have the ability to contact them.
Yeah.
And they don't all show up at meetings.
That's another thing I try to do is, you know, the members really need to, if they want change, just like this past mayor's election, if they really want to see a difference in life, they really need to start getting involved with their locals and their delegate meetings, even their city council meetings. Like, they got to start getting involved in their city, and you know, that's how it all starts. You want change, is how it's going to happen. We got to start getting our own members.
And we do have, you know, various members that do that.
Yeah.
Not enough, like Candace Hewitt.
Yeah.
You know, is running for trustee on your ticket. Very involved in her
community. And then we should be trying to sponsor people like her to run for city council jobs. That's what I think we should do. We should start focusing on the work. We got to start somewhere. You know, if you want to change the narrative, you don't like the way things are doing, just like I did, you got to roll up your sleeves and
you know, and that's something a good political director would
start pushing, finding those people and trying to get them in the community and putting them in the right spots.
He would get a program.
Yeah. Like so we'll that's another thing we'll work on. Like I said, there's a lot of things.
There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of discussions.
But things like that.
More that we can handle in this one video.
But we could, you know, by doing little steps like that, all this works towards us building our platform to get to go after the developers and the contract and try to convert this work around. So, and I spoke about things that I had planned with the insurance companies and how to work on that, but I've done videos on that before. But we'll do another video down the road. I don't want to make a 2-hour video here. So with that being said, our members, listen, like you said, the ballots got to be back in by November 19th at 5 o'clock. This is very urgent. What I need you guys to all do is start calling your co-workers, call any family members that are in the business, start getting them on the phone, make sure they get their ballots, make sure they fill them out. If they lost their ballot or they misplaced it, let us know. I'm gonna put that information up. You guys have to call immediately. There's plenty of time here to get these ballots replaced. Don't be too easy to give up your vote. Your vote does count. It's especially going to count in this election. Listen, I don't want to just win. I want to really win. I want to send the international. I want the Department of Labor. I want to send a message. Yes, I want to send a message that the members have spoken, and this is what they want. Like, enough is enough, and we're moving in a different direction, and we're going to start fighting for what we want. And district council's been around 135 years, I think now, or so roughly like that. 135 years, 130 years, I think now.
I think it's more like 110.
110 years. All right, so we're 110 years in business. I don't see any reason why we should be having other regional councils making decisions. And we've made it this far in life. We can do the next 110 well on our own. I don't think we need to have anyone pointing the finger and telling us how to invest our money. And God forbid, I don't want us to make up for other people's poor financial decisions down the road. I don't want our members losing what we have because other people's decisions, that they made were wrong. So, all right. With that being said, let me go, guys. Mike, thank you for coming out there.
New York money in New York.
Yeah, let's keep New York money in New York. Let's just start with that and move forward. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you.